sensitive fingers of artists are poorly suited to manual labor, and in finding suitable work for musicians and other artists, the WPA has contributed greatly to the culture of America. A typical project is this Negro choir, singing the spirituals that are the real folk music of America. Painters, too, contribute their bit to making the Works program a real and permanent accomplishment. These reproductions of the American scene of today will make this one of the most fertile periods of our country's art. Some of this work is done on canvas, but much of it is created on the walls of our schools, libraries, and other public buildings in the form of mural paintings. Of particular interest is the great mural in the mess hall of the Military Academy at West Point, depicting great warriors of history. An art long dormant in the United States is the creation of stained glass windows. One project devoted to this art has made a window for the Military Academy at West Point, depicting scenes from the life of Washington. Commemorative tablets like this are among the contributions of sculptors to the Works program, and they also create works of art for our parks and public buildings. Many American museums have long been in need of highly skilled experts to restore valuable historical material, such as this Persian ceiling, which is forming under the deft fingers of a WPA artist in the Philadelphia Museum. In many other museums, fossils and animal skeletons are being prepared and mounted for study. Inevitably comes disaster, as it has through all the ages of history. So today, flood, fire, and famine relentlessly persecute the human race. In this land of ours, so bountifully supplied by nature with fertile lands and rich forests, disaster has taken a terrible toll. Raging floods have swept the green valleys, imprisoning great cities in the grasp of icy waters, leaving destruction and the threat of disease in their wake. But in the moment of greatest need, the shock troops of disaster go into action with the courage and perseverance which armed our forefathers against despair. The shock troops of disaster, the great army of WPA workers, diverted from their work of construction and improvement to meet a pressing emergency, have proven their merit through many tragic hours which have harried at far-flung areas of the nation. Working hand in hand with other agencies of relief, the men and women of the WPA take up the work of rescue, evacuation, and relief, with the first thought for the saving of imperiled lives and the protection of threatened areas from advancing waters. The orderly program goes swiftly forward. Food is distributed to flood victims from outdoor kitchens, and carloads of warm clothes and bedding are rushed to shivering refugees from WPA sewing rooms in many states. In emergency hospitals, thousands of lives are saved by Red Cross and volunteer nurses and doctors, assisted by trained WPA workers. For hundreds of miles along the flood area, the WPA supplies the shock troops that hold the river within man-made walls. Levee workers transport material by hand, by truck, by boat. Working day and night, they fill countless thousands of sandbags, raising the levees above the record crest. Often working under the skilled direction of Army engineers, relief workers fight the flood at every point. The people of the flood area will not soon forget the courage of these heroic workers, for Administrator Harry Hopkins heard their praise along the full route of his inspection trip as head of the President's Committee. As the waters subside after the work of rescue is completed, comes a new battle against the threat of disease. The wreckage and debris left by the flood must be quickly removed. Proper conditions of sanitation must be re-established to prevent the epidemics which were once certain to take an additional toll of life. And so from the first moment of danger to the day when life again takes up its even flow, the Works program offers aid to those who need it most. The roaring waters that bring disaster to fertile valleys have a terrible rival in the drought which has afflicted thousands of square miles of our western plains. Ruin and famine come in the wake of the hot, dry winds which tear the rich soil from the grassroots. Here again, the shock troops of disaster marshal their forces against devastation. Dust, once the valuable topsoil of the farm country, is now carried in whirling clouds, choking and blinding people and livestock, rolling on higher, wider, and blacker until the land itself, upon which everything else depends, the land it took nature 100 years to the inch to build up, is blowing away. In this emergency, too, the shock troops of disaster marshal their forces against devastation. With the aid of WPA workers, food, housing, and medical care are provided for those who have been driven from their homesteads by the threat of famine. There is great immediate danger from inflammation of eyes, throats, and lungs tortured by dust. Expert clinical care for children and adults is provided to minimize the danger to life and health. In addition to their vital work of providing the necessities of life for refugees, the WPA has found work for thousands of farmers who have been deprived of a livelihood by the drought. These men are working on projects important to the afflicted area, such as roads and fire lanes. To them, this work provides a means of carrying on in the face of the hardships inflicted by nature. Drought is a grave national problem, correcting it a mammoth undertaking. As a step in this direction, relief workers are engaged in the construction of many dams to conserve future rainfalls. Construction work on water conservation projects requires an immense number of skilled and unskilled workers, providing immediate employment for hundreds of those who would otherwise be on relief. Those who suffered because of the drought are now employed on projects designed for their own future benefit. Thus, the Works program answers the need of both the individual and the community. With drought comes the added peril of fire, an ever-present danger to lives and property in forest-covered regions. Fire is a constant menace to one of the nation's greatest assets, the great timberlands which are so important to industry and to the very life of our soil.